Okay, guys, Dan Bradbury here, and I'm extremely excited in a moment to introduce you to Jodie Rogers from Symbia Partners. Jodie, you have a tremendous reputation amongst our own community as somebody that gets shit done, quite frankly, and has produced some outstanding results. So I'm delighted to be interviewing you on the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So, place I want to start is people, or a specific problem around people. When it comes to scaling, people need to build or scale their teams, and I don't think anybody really enjoys firing anybody. And in fact, there's tremendous anguish, and they tend to hang on to people that shouldn't be there, and that restricts their company's growth. And I know you've had a few big shifts in that area. So could you speak to the difference between firing and offboarding and how that's helped you?
Yeah. So language is extremely powerful. And I think even when it comes to thinking about firing someone, that word is very loaded. It has all sorts of connotations quite directly. There's a gun almost in your imagination. And I certainly remember in some of the first people that I had to offboard, which is the language I use now, and I'll explain in a second. It was extremely emotive. It was exhausting. It was draining. I spent nights awake agonizing over it because it all felt like this is something I am doing to someone. And I'm not a bad person. I don't want to cause pain on people. Um, and it was over time I started to flip my language to talk about, well, we have onboarding. Why can't we have offboarding? Why does it have to be so dramatic? And also through my own narrative, speaking to myself, I got to a place where I thought, why is it okay that people are allowed to leave us, to leave our company, and we have a party and there's cake and it's all fine, but I'm not allowed to decide that people aren't right for my business, or they were right for a period of time and they're no longer right. And when I do that, I'm the worst in the world. Um, and am I really the worst in the world, or am I making myself the worst in the world? And of course, you don't get there by yourself. You get there through great coaching. I have my own leadership coach, and of course, being part of the Dan Bradbury ecosystem, you get counseled on these things. Now, it's very easy for people to tell you, you've got to take the emotion out of it. And I remember the common kind of wisdom is when you are offboarding someone, keep it short, keep it brief, don't get into the weeds. I always remember going, that's impossible, because I'm a highly empathetic person, which, sounds like it's a good thing. It's actually quite exhausting, and it's not always that useful, particularly in business. It is in many cases, but not always. And so, when I think back to an offboarding, which was before I was using the language offboarding, so it was in the dramatic firing place. And it was it very much needed to happen. There'd been a business betrayal, and it couldn't be salvaged, even though we tried to. And it was kind of 6 months of uncertainty and various other things, and finally had come to the decision. And I remember being coached around it, and okay, so I had 3 reasons why this was going to happen. And I always kind of falter between what should I do? What's the right thing to do? What's the legal thing to do? Etc. And I've kind of got to a place myself, which is, this is where I'm actually selfish. What do I need to do that will help me sleep at night, knowing that I've done the right thing, whether I have to do it or not do it, but that I can just walk away knowing I've done the right thing by that person. And so that's generally my rule of thumb now. But I remember going into that conversation, I had been scripted. I knew I was going to say these three things, and I was going to wrap up the conversation briefly, which did not happen. I said the three things, and then the hardest part about being clear and concise is that you're supposed to stop speaking, but you don't, because you want to explain. And also, you want them to really understand why this has happened. And, sometimes we have our own grievance. We're human. We need to get things off our chest. Not appropriate in that situation. Anyway, I had got to a place where I had just felt so bad about this idea that I was doing something to someone, which actually, if you get in a helicopter, was not the case. There had been a number of indiscretions and breaks in trust, amongst other things, that had led to this not being a workable situation anymore. So it wasn't really me doing anything, except actually trying to manage and run my business in the best way possible, and that means making hard decisions and having difficult conversations. But I had gone into empathy overdrive from that moment and over the couple of weeks of the offboarding, that had done its. I cared so much that actually I turned the table of where responsibility sat, and I'm pretty sure that that person felt vindicated that I was doing something to them, and that I would like it was almost self-fulfilling. And if I was to go back in time, I would. This sounds so strange to say, but I would be less human about it, less like friendly and caring and empathetic. It is a decision. There are reasons for those decisions. There's going to be mixed feelings about it, but it's the best decision for everybody. Set up the package, close it, and that would be the end of it. And now what has helped me, it's actually that's how I do it today. And it's so much less exhausting. It's so much easier, and it's much more pragmatic. And so, most recent offboarding, there's been a few this year, but one, it really was 6 minutes, and it wasn't callous, but what needed to be said was said. It was professionally mature. Here's what's going to happen. Here's my expectations. They thanked me, which is really weird. And I hung up going, is that actually possible? And it is possible. It's possible when you're clear about what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, what are the expectations on the table, and everybody can see those.
Very nice. It's a perfect segue in many respects, Jodie. Another phrase that I don't know if you coined it, but I certainly attribute it to you, which I've heard you say, which I quite like, is spreadsheet accountability. In that, I think that a lot of business owners, we bring these people onto the team, and then we just kind of hope that they're doing a good job. And then often the reason why the firing is difficult or can't happen is because it ends in a he says, she says, and there's no objectivity because it's entirely subjective as to the definition of what the job even is. So could you speak to what is spreadsheet accountability and how can that be helpful?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is really a game changer in terms of freeing up some real estate in your mind, because I mean, you've pretty much described what had happened in, it was a couple of years ago now, that quite emotional and exhausting and draining offboarding it felt very much he said, she said. It felt like it was based on feelings, on anecdotal experiences, and and I remember struggling with this with my leadership coach, just saying, but I need tangible examples. I need, what would HR say? And that was because I was grappling in this kind of liminal space of what is my rational reasoning here for how and why this person needs to be offboarded. Now, with professional maturity, I should never have been in that liminal space because it would have been very clear in a number of different ways. And so I've done a lot of cleanup since then. And one of them, yes, accountability spreadsheet. And that actually, there's a couple of different aspects to that. I have gone, I'm not a detailed person, but I've become a detail geek when it comes to job descriptions, and also scorecards alongside those job descriptions. Where does that come from? Does that come from Who? Can't remember. I think it's
I believe so, yeah. Who by
yeah, the
Jeff
book
Smart.
Who. Yeah, so if job description is what they'll be doing, the scorecard is what they'll be delivering, and it's much more tangible, and there's timelines, and it's metrics and it's measurable. So those two things exist alongside each other. But then also having a Google spreadsheet, this that everybody, not everybody, the person that you're developing has access to along with you, which is the 12 months mapped out in terms of what are the expectations for the first quarter, for the 3 months within that, and so on. Now, everybody does this in different ways. Mine is themed, and it's themed based on the core areas in the scorecard. And it's kind of what is the minimum expectation of what you should be doing, and how can you go beyond that, and what does excellent look like where you're really pushing the limits. And then as we do monthly reviews, our quarterly review is more intense, and our monthly review is more of a update. But so we go through it, and you have to say, where are you on these? Have these things been achieved? Are they in progress, or are they not achieved? And on top of that, and this was inspired by Sonia, one of our business buddies, she also recommended, and I think this is a great idea, that you put your company values in there as well. So it's not just deliverables, but it's the how people are showing up, and the attitudes that they come with, and culture. Are they demonstrating the culture? So, and again, you can do the traffic light system or whatever works for you, but it means we know that there's great people that are brilliant at delivering, but they're pains in the asses and create dysfunction and toxicity. And then we have the reverse, right? People who have the right spirit, the right attitude, they want to learn anything, but they aren't necessarily skilled. And again, common wisdom, we should be going for the people who aren't skilled but have the right attitude more than anything else. So that helps you get the balance between people who are doing the right thing, and also people who are have the right culture, the right mindset, and the right attitude. And so this accountability spreadsheet, as an exercise, actually forced me to think, what is this job? What do I really want and need in the business from this role? Forget about person, because like in neutralizing it makes it easier. From this role, how is it measurable? And what does good look like? And then being really clear with that person from the beginning, actually from interview stage, means that I struggled, and it was an insight that we had in our coaching, Dan, with this. For those of you who don't know, there's a matrix. Maybe you'll remember the name of it, Dan. I don't know who it's attributed to, but it's the support and challenge matrix, where you can be, high support, high challenge is what you're going for. We have some people who are high challenge, low support, and they can be, antagonistic, and it's not fun. And then you can be high support and low challenge, and you can be low in both. It turns out I was high support and low challenge, which was a surprise to me, because that's not how I am with my clients, my business, and my delivery. But it is how I am with my small team. And look, we can go into the ins and outs of it, but let's just say family dynamics and your past and all of those things pop up in your business uninvited. Anyway, so that was really fascinating for me to understand. And then I unpacked accountability. Like, what is it with accountability that I seem to have an issue with? And again, language is powerful. Accountability for me in my mind was somebody wagging their finger at you, telling you you have done wrong. And I didn't want to be that person who's just going around pointing fingers and looking for blame. But I had, it's semantics. That's not necessarily true. There's lots of different ways. Accountability is and can be very healthy, but in my mind, it wasn't something healthy. And so I had to reframe it myself. And I actually had to remove myself from, again, being the person who holds someone to account. That's what it felt like. And you can see what I'm doing, for those listening, I am pointing my finger. That's very much the energy around it. And when actually I reframed it to be clarity, it's just clarity. People need to know what's expected of them in order for them to thrive. So you're just going to be clear. And there's no point in being clear after the fact, because we're great at that, because we want everybody to be mind readers. The more clear up front you can be, the more chance there is of success. And actually, people can even say, I don't know if I'm going to be able to deliver that. Well, okay, what does support look like for you? Is it more training? Is it more time? Is it more resource? What is it? So I have delegated accountability now to this spreadsheet and removed myself from being the villain in this spreadsheet. In those conversations, I ask that everyone gets a chance to complete it beforehand. And I ask them, and other members of the team now do it for people further down, but tell me about this. What do you think? And why do you rate yourself that way? And then I will give my opinion. Let me share what I see and how it shows up for me. And at the very end, I also have usually for each person, it's 5 competencies or traits, something personal that they're working on. It might be attention to detail, it might be more bravery, it could be lots of different things. And then they score themselves from A to D on each of those. And then I or their manager scores them on the same thing, A to D. And I actually took this from couples therapy. It's a really, really useful device because actually, it doesn't matter if there's A's or D's. What matters is, do they see it the same way you see it? Are you aligned? Right? And so if both of you think this is a C, that's a very healthy conversation. But if they think it's an A and you think it's a D, now it's your opportunity to go, well, let's talk about that. What am I seeing versus what are you seeing, and what needs to be different? But what that device does is it flags potential problems, before they're actually problems. And so no surprises. And that's been my biggest learning, going full circle back to offboarding people. No one should ever be surprised. No one should ever be surprised. And if you think someone's going to be surprised, you haven't done your job. Like, they should know that it's coming because you have been clear, you're communicating, you're managing, you're developing.
Yeah, I love that, Jodie. I really like it a lot. I think that, if ever you think about, if the people listening to this think about one of the worst firing or offboarding that they've ever had, I would bet money that it's because the person who was being offboarded's perception about whether or not they'd done a good or bad job was different to yours. Because if they know they've done a terrible job and you know that they've done a terrible job, normally it comes as no surprise. But it's when they feel like this is unfair or unjust because they thought they were doing a great job and you've swooped in there and let them go without any notice. In fact, a friend of mine who's a very, very skilled entrepreneur and people manager once said, I never fire anybody, Dan. They can only fire themselves. But he is also very good, Jodie. He would use different terminology, but for that spreadsheet accountability, right? That he's very clear about the expectations and the scorecard that they're held accountable to. So if they do need to be let go, it's self-evident because they're let going of themselves because they have consistently not done what's been expected for them in that role. So I want to take quite a hard right. So we've spoken about the people side, Jodie. I want to talk more about strategy, because another area you excel, because if we think about Symbia as a business, most people in your industry don't scale beyond a very small size because they are unable to let go, to hire the people, and have them deliver at a level to create scalability. So that they need to build a team, but also people stay stuck because they're unwilling to experiment with a different business model. And sometimes that's ego, and perhaps that might be something you want to speak about, because you are highly in demand. I mean, you are sought after at boardroom level by literally one of the biggest companies in the world. I don't know if we can name them, so I won't unless you choose to, but so you are exceptionally in demand, and yet you were brilliant. And I don't mind holding my hands up. When you proposed this change in business model to me a few years ago, I wasn't that confident that it would work, but it's been an absolute rip-roaring success. So could you speak to the program called The Edge, or really, I'm curious for our listeners about the mindset that went behind the design of this different model, which flies in the face of a lot of what should work in the corporate training space.
Yeah, for sure. So, look, I'll go back a little bit. I have been in business for 10 years now. The truth is, I've been in business for 5 years. The first 5 years, I had a really good, well-paying job, which was me doing stuff that people pay me money for, right? And that was fine because I was traveling the world. I was having babies. I was immigrating to Spain. So it was great. And then it was after my second son was born where I started to take it all a bit more seriously. And I thought, well, hold on, if I am doing everything here, that's kind of exhausting, and it's not a business, it's a job. And certainly when I came into your ecosystem, where you talk about risk mitigation and the single points of failure, I thought, holy moly, holy shit is what I thought. I am the single point of failure in my business. If I get sick, if whatever, that's problematic, and more so because I am the breadwinner in my family, and so that got me thinking. It got me thinking about a number of things, which is, look, it's difficult in our industry because it's a relationship industry. Trust is built with the people that show up in the room and facilitate workshops and do learning journeys and work with leaders. But I realized that I need to have other trusted peers who can go out there and do great work, and it's not just me. And actually, up until 5 years ago, I was trading under Jodie Rogers Limited, right? But the problem is in the title. So, right, okay, hold on a minute. Yes, they are. They're literally buying Jodie Rogers. That's, the name that's on the PO. So it was before, I think it was just before the pandemic, or can't remember. Anyway, I rebranded. That was first step. Under Symbia. Symbia comes from symbiosis, because we believe that there is a symbiotic relationship between the well-being, mental fitness of your people and the performance of your business. And that was the first step. There were a number of steps really to the transition, and the next step was to look for globally for kick-ass facilitators, top of their game, that I could train into the Symbia way, and also train into mental fitness and our approach to mental fitness. And also in 2020 or 2021, I released my book, The Hidden Edge, why mental fitness is the only advantage that matters in business. And actually, that it's not until looking back that you see how all of the breadcrumbs relate to each other. But then things exploded in the pandemic. I went into the pandemic with a workshop business, and I came out with a workshop and a training business. It just went from strength to strength. And of course, mental fitness and emotional fitness was the thing in the pandemic, and still is actually to this day. And it left me scratching my head. You know, how do I have the ability to serve all of the requests that are coming in through our door all of the time from many of the biggest companies in the world. So we work with corporates, we work with L'Oreal, Unilever, Google, lots of different companies, some that can't be named and some that can. And it's through really knowing our clients, like really building trust and relationship. And my background pre Symbia is research, consumer market research. And so with every piece of work that we do, we are having one-on-one conversations with people. So our fingers really on the pulse with understanding where people's heads and hearts are. And I can tell you, we're all still kind of exhausted. But, and it's conversations with our clients where they started to say, listen, there's a massive global shift happening in the workforce. We've gone through dramatic change in the pandemic where the lines between our personal lives and professional lives not only were blurred, they were completely removed. We've lost ourselves in this kind of never ending, always on, always working sense of urgency. And as we've gone back into face-to-face workplaces, there's been a real every single client we work with is restructuring. There's massive pressures. Commodity prices have gone through the roof. We have geopolitical challenges around the world, massive economic shifts. And so budgets are also challenged. And I was at a conference, and senior learning and development person from a very big company had said, we need the people today to survive and thrive in this business world. They absolutely need to better navigate uncertainty and change because it's the only constant that we have. We need to help them still perform under stress and under pressure. We need to help them think more innovatively about the future. They need to be more agile. All of the things, let's face it, we want agile and adaptable businesses, but to have that, you need agile and adaptable people.
Right.
To have that, you need to work at the mindset level. And so, and they had also said, and because this is not distinct to a function, to an industry, to a country, to a company, it's the whole global workforce. Whatever the solution is, it needs to be really affordable. And that got me thinking, because I had actually been introduced to the membership model a number of years ago, which is very B2C, right? And Netflix is a membership model. You'll all be in some form of a membership model, your gym, etc. And I wanted to make that work in the corporate world, but I really couldn't work out how, because a part of that is the monthly drip, small amount of money, etc., etc. Anyway, so as it does with these things, a number of different things collided. I in my business was thinking, I want to be able to impact as many people as possible, without having to get on a plane. So to do it with global distribution virtually, and I don't want all answers to lead to me. So I need some great people on board to do that. At the same time, our clients were saying we need to upskill our people, but we need to do it affordably. And I had simultaneously been trying to crack this membership model. And again, it's inspired by a number of people in the Dan Bradbury ecosystem already out there delivering. It's not unique. This 12-month program once a month you show up and deliver, like there's millions of people delivering that. But I had struggled to crack it in the corporate world because of the payment system. And then finally had the realization, which is actually you pay, it's 12 months, you pay a small fee, you know, £1,500 for the year for a person. And that is, you know, wee biscuits to corporates. That's like, what? A leadership development and it's for a year, and you have all of these amazing trainers. Because that's what I did. I decided I'm going to curate people that are so damn good at this that they don't even want me because I'm not the expert on that thing. So we have Nikki Perfect, who's from the Dan Bradbury ecosystem, ex-hostage and crisis negotiator. We've got Aldo Kane, who's an ex-Marine, commando sniper, and he does stress and performance. And Tendai Vicky, who is from Strategizer, the guys that invented business model Canvas and all of the innovation stuff. So we've got this kick-ass lineup, which is cheap as chips, low cost, high impact. And in the first year, we sold 250 seats. And in the second year, we sold 300 seats. We've moved into the third year and we're still just closing sales. We're around the 200 mark, but it's been so popular. One of our big clients decided they wanted their own. And so we're also running a cohort just for them. And it's amazing to be here 3 years later. We measure everything. The results are phenomenal. You know, massive shifts by 20-30% across all competencies measured. And what that has done for my business, it has brought recurring revenue, massive stability, lots of consistency, high revenue, high profit. It's been an absolute game changer.
I love it. Well, well done. I mean, it was well thought through, obviously well executed, because clearly, first you've got to be able to sell the idea, but then after being able to sell the idea, you need to be able to deliver on it, right? So that it sticks and renews, and that's how it really drives the value. So, I love it, Jodie. So we've spoken about the people side, we've spoken about the kind of strategic or business model side. You mentioned your book. How do people find out more, Jodie? If they want to find out more about Symbia, I presume they can get The Hidden Edge on Amazon, or places where great books are sold. What's the best way for them to find out more about you and your work?
Well, Symbia Partners, the website, I say reluctantly, because like all of us, our websites need updated, and the book. And actually, and I always forget this, but the Edge is inspired by the Hidden Edge. The clue is in the name. The leadership development program. I also have a podcast that, you know, like all good things, I stopped recording, but there's still 20 episodes up there. Yeah, but that's probably the best way.
Great. Well, we can put the links in the show notes. And what's the name of the podcast, Jodie?
The Hidden Edge of Team Performance.
Very nice, very nice. Well, we'll put the links in the show notes. So all that leaves me to say is, Jodie Rogers, thank you very much.
Thank you.